Well, let's break down whatever that game was.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get things started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. And I also have to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Man, that was of all of the games in all of the world that have ever happened, that certainly was one of them. What a stupid game. That's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to break down that game. Like I said, the good, the bad, the ugly, but it's a whole lot of the third, and like one thing was good. No, that's maybe unfair, but like I kind of expected that it would go like this. I feel like, and maybe this is just recency bias on my part, but like I feel like Blue Jackets Islanders games are always so stupid, right? Like I feel like the game-winning goal is always ridiculous. Like either everybody scores or no one scores, and I should have known better than to have faith in this team having a normal game against the New York Islanders. Here's the thing. Like, first of all, straight up, under no circumstances did the Blue Jackets deserve anything from that game. Or no, let's be real. Did any of the skaters deserve anything from that game? Elvis deserved to win that game. Nobody else deserved anything. Like they should have to walk back to Columbus tonight is kind of how I feel about how that game went. I thought every single skater was just god awful. Like they were, I get it. They played 20 hours ago. It was a hard game against the Blues. They had to travel last night. They probably didn't get into Long Island until well past midnight. Early game tonight, 5 p.m. puck drop. I get it. You're not going to win every game, right? Like they just won 4 in a row, and I'm sitting here moaning because they lost a game, right? They're still 7-5. They're still, as of right now, in a playoff spot. I know that it's stupid to talk about playoffs 12 games into the season, but like this is not going to be like the undoing of the season, right? But here's the thing is that they didn't play well against the Blues and still managed to win, right? Like they were worse tonight. This was that first period, I think, was the worst period of hockey that I've seen this season. And I've watched Sharks games this season. But no, just awful first. Elvis kept them in it. They managed to kind of claw their way into the game, took the lead somehow, and then it just unraveled in the last 5 minutes. Like I tweeted at I think it was when Miles Wood drew that tripping penalty, which probably shouldn't have been a call, if I'm being honest. I do feel like he did kind of throw himself onto the floor, but that's besides the point. I was like, man, something really stupid is going to happen here. And it turns out that several stupid things happened, right? Like the 4-on-4 of the Voronkov. Here's the thing. The Voronkov penalty wasn't a penalty, but also probably neither was the Wood penalty. So, like, that's a makeup call. I get it. Like, I'm annoyed about it, but, like, stupid, right? That goal by Werenski should have been a goal. They called it no goal on the ice. I don't know that they would have won the challenge. And if you challenge and lose, then you go on the penalty kill, right? Blue Jackets already playing 4-on-4. Already we're going to have a penalty kill at the end of that because it was like 30-ish seconds of an Islanders power play was going to happen after that 4-on-4. I get it. They didn't want to risk being potentially down 5-on-3 because of a goalie interference call, which is impossible to predict which way it's going to go, right? You're up 2-1. You have to take that risk. I still, even after this game, I still don't know that I take that risk. Even if, like challenging that penalty either way changes how that game ends, right? Either the Blue Jackets go up 3-1 or the goal is disallowed, it stays 2-1, and they go on the penalty kill, the game changes, right? Maybe the Islanders still score that tying goal and then score the stupid game-winning goal, right? But either way, and I almost tweeted this before that third goal was scored by the Islanders. I was like, man, the Blue Jackets should consider themselves lucky to get a point out of this because, again, they were terrible. It is the New York Islanders, and they have outshot you 39-22. Again, I know that you played last night, but 18-3 shots in the first period. Blue Jackets picked it up in the second, outshot them 14-10, and then the Islanders had an 11-5 shot advantage in the third period. It's simply not good enough, right? If you're being held to under 10 shots in a period, it's simply not good enough. They got battered on face-offs. The special teams were non-existent. No one was good enough. No one was good enough in this game, except Elvis. We're going to talk about Elvis in a second here, but the new line combinations, I want to talk about those in a little bit more detail. They were shockingly didn't fix what wasn't broken, right? And I don't know what lessons they're going to take from this game, potentially to put things back the way they were. I don't know. Because here's the thing. The line combinations were never going to work. Miles Wood is not a top 6 player. I understand why they want to try him there. No. Just no, right? Ken Johnson, not a 4th line player. It drives me batty that for some reason Ken Johnson is being seen as what the problem on the second line is and not Boone Jenner, who has been fine but not remarkable. And here's the thing, that second line has been good. Yes, they haven't put the puck in the net. Yes, they were bad against the Maple Leafs. They were awful against the Maple Leafs. They got their lunch handed to them, right? They were better against the Blues. But here's the thing, is you are on a 4-game win streak. I don't understand why that's the line, the move that you make, right? We don't even have to talk about the Cheetah thing yet, but just the line combinations, man, that's not what sunk this team. Because even the lines that were good previous to this shakeup were also terrible in this game. The only line that was anything approaching good in this game was actually the 4th line, which again we'll talk about in a second here. But if your best line is your 4th line, and even then the 4th line wasn't great, that's a problem, right? I am vaguely willing to write this off as just a stupid loss, right? The Islanders deserve to win this game. The Islanders were absolutely the better team, and up until 5 minutes left, I was like, man, even if they tie it up and you go to overtime, you take a point and you run out of Long Island, right? But frankly, this probably is what the score should have been, and it just got there in a really stupid way. I want to talk a little bit more about the line combinations because I cut myself off there, and I do have more things that I want to say about them. So we'll do that in just a second here at Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I've got to tell you about FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there is no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game, you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Just go find the heaviest favorite you can, put $5 on them, and if it comes through, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets that you can spend on whatever you want. So go to FanDuel.com to sign up, play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. I've also got to tell you about Monarch, because let's be honest, most of us can't name all of our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401k, savings, investments, it's so easy to lose track, and that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch. They're an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Help me organize my accounts, track my spending, get a better handle on my investments. I don't have to touch a spreadsheet, which is great. I love a spreadsheet, but I got really tired of opening my banking app and then going to a budgeting app and then to a spreadsheet and then back to my banking app and then back to the spreadsheet. It was just a nightmare. I don't have to do any of that anymore. I can just open Monarch. The visual dashboards and smart tools make it so easy to understand where my money's going and how to make it work harder for me. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for 50% off your first year. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. Let's talk more about these line combinations, because here's the thing. They were stupid to begin with. First of all, I understand that the second line hasn't been really going the way that you want it to, by which I mean they hasn't been putting up points. They've been playing well, but they haven't been putting up points. The team's on a 4-game win streak right now, and so you decide in your infinite wisdom that the best thing that they can possibly do is is change the lines, right? But only some of the lines. That top line has not been good for a couple of games now. The third line is fine, and I think we'll probably get to ride the high of that 11-point game from a couple of games ago for at least another week or so. But you change the second line and you change the fourth line. And what you do is you take out a player that has been good for 3 or 4 games in a row and had one bad game, and I guess that's the end of Chinakov's leash. He's not going to get back in the lineup now until there's an injury, probably, knock on wood. Not knock on wood to prevent injuries, not to prevent Chinikov getting back in the lineup. But you bring in Zach Aston Reese, who is a replacement level player that definitely does something, I'm sure, but I can't figure out what that is. And then you move Kent Johnson down to the fourth line, and you move Miles Wood up to the second line. Now I get it. Miles Wood has been playing well in his role on the fourth line. Yes, he scored in the game. That line got absolutely caved in their minutes. Even if you take just the regular shots for, shots against, right? That line was on the ice for 7 Islanders shots and 1 Blue Jackets shot. Granted, that was the goal, but just absolutely caved in. They had a shot attempt share of 40%. What are we doing here? The top line also awful. They were on the ice for 5 shots for and 12 against. They had a shot attempt share of 25%. The fourth line was fine. They were on the ice for 7 shot attempts for and 6 against. The third line also got caved in, 2 shot attempts for, 12 against. No one was good. So I'm not sitting here calling out the second line specifically for being bad, but the line changes made no sense. They made no sense at the time, and now I'm looking at it and I'm like, I can see exactly what's going to happen. Because Miles Wood got that goal, that line is going to get to stay together probably for the next 3 or 4 games at least. Whether they win or lose those games, that line is going to stay together. Kent Johnson is going to stay on the fourth line. Maddening. The thing is, if they'd kept Chinikov in and gotten rid of Aston Reese and had a line of Chinikov, Lundestrom, Johnson, there's something there, right? But Lundstrom's not going to create much offense by himself. Zach Aston Reese doesn't really do anything. So Kent Johnson was doing a lot of the heavy lifting on the fourth line, was frankly doing his best. And the other thing as well is those 3 players were the only players that finished with an above 50% shot attempt share. So Isaac Lundestrom was on the ice for 13 attempts for, 7 against. Johnson 8 for, 6 against. Aston Reese 9 for, 8 against. Next best player was Zach Werenski, who was on the ice for 24 shot attempts for and 25 against. Everyone else was worse than that. The Provorov-Stevenson pairing got caved in. I'm sure you're shocked to hear. Third line, awful. Top line, awful. Second line, not good enough, right? And again, no one was good enough. But these line combinations made no sense, and it is so infuriating that they looked and were like, well, we've got 4 games in a row that we've won. Yes, we didn't play great against the Leafs. We didn't finish out the game great against the Blues. Let's change things up. I understand wanting to get guys going. I understand that you want to get Adam Fantilli going, right? This wasn't the way to do it. I still think that you need to, well, first of all, put Kent Johnson back in the top 6. Flip Fantilli and Monahan. Put Fantilli with the Russians, put Monahan with Jenner and Johnson if you insist on keeping Jenner in the top 6. See what happens there. Can't make it worse. Again, the top line was the worst line. That's a lie. The third line was the worst line. The top line was the second worst line. Again, like just truly maddening to, and I don't know that if the Blue Jackets had kept the original line combinations that they would have won this game, right? Again, lots of things went wrong in this game. The Islanders played well, the Blue Jackets didn't, right? Like that's not necessarily that's not entirely a line combination / deployment issue. It means that the Islanders were good and the Blue Jackets were probably tired and also didn't play great. But it just felt like shooting yourself in the foot a little bit. Made no sense. Made no sense at the time. Makes less sense now. Really interested to see what happens. Probably will not get anything tomorrow or today, Monday, because they're traveling. They're heading out to Western Canada. I don't know what their first game is. It's Calgary, but I don't know when it is. So their first game is Wednesday, it looks like. Yeah, so no game today, no game tomorrow. Game on Wednesday. We'll see what happens with the lines then. But truly what a frustrating game for so many reasons, especially because I don't think it needed to be like that. Like that I think is the kicker, is that I think they could have mitigated some of the damage that they did to themselves by not fixing what wasn't broken. That's how I feel about that. So I'm going to take another quick break, and then I want to talk about Elvis, who was the MVP tonight. Even the ending, which, again, I'm not putting on him, even with that, he was still extremely good tonight. So let's talk about that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I want to tell you about Game Time. Hockey season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache. Between waiting in queues, surprise fees, prices that jump right before checkout, it's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Game Time comes in, the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. I use Game Time all the time. I used them when I was in Toronto last month. I used them when I was in Montreal in September. I had great seats in minutes. Could not have been easier. I loved that I could see like panoramic view of my seat. Like you could look around the entire arena. It didn't just have one fixed view of the ice. It's great. You can even find tickets for under $25. Maybe not in Montreal or Toronto, but I love my $19 Sharks tickets that I get on Game Time whenever I'm in the Bay Area. Take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. Let's talk about Elvis, who was the only Blue Jacket that showed up to this game. He made 36 of 39 saves. That last one, yeah, like you wanted... I was going to say you wanted a save on that, but frankly, you wanted it not to have to get to that point, right? Like, first goal on the power play. Okay, sure. I don't think Elvis even saw it. The second Islanders goal came off of Zach Werenski, so, like, friendly fire. Sucks. I'm not going to put that on Elvis. Third, yeah, maybe you want a little bit of a tighter seal to the post there. And maybe that is a goal that he should have had, but also why was there only an Islander there to scoop up that and put it in the net? Like, just, and also even apart from that, the dude made 36 saves. Like, he allowed a goal early and then was basically under siege for the next 45 minutes of the game. 50 minutes of the game, probably. I don't remember when that first goal went in off the top of my head. It was 6 minutes into the game. So he allowed a goal at 5:53 of the first, and then didn't allow a goal again until 18:53 of the third period. So that's 53 minutes of the game. He didn't allow a goal, and he faced 30-something shots in there. He was great. if I've talked a lot today about how they deserve to lose this game. Elvis deserved something from this game. And I don't love to see him losing his temper and like smashing his stick over the net, because I think that way madness lies. And I think a lot of the good that we've gotten from Elvis this season has been because he's been a lot calmer in net, a lot more chill. I do think that is partially the Jet Greaves experience of just being a calming presence, but also I can't really fault him. I do hate when they break sticks into having a tantrum, because like that's $300. And I do think you should have to donate a stick to like a youth hockey organization if you ever do that. But like, I can kind of see what I can see where he's coming from, right? Like, and I say this like someone who has never snapped a stick in temper, right? Like, I have launched my stick like a javelin into the wall of the locker room. Like, I am not sitting here with like all high and mighty, like, well, I've never had a tantrum over anything and tried to break a stick, right? But I understand it. I don't think it's good for the long-term level of his play if he allows his emotions to take over like that. That being said, I would have I wouldn't have taken out on the teammates, but I joke a lot about how goalies deserve a knife. I do think that Elvis is the only one that should be able to fly back to Columbus tonight. I think every single player should have to push the plane. Like, you should have to get out and push the plane back to Columbus. And I feel for the guy. This is going to happen. You're going to win games that the goalie plays great in. Sorry, let me rephrase that. You're going to win games that your goalie is not the best in, right? Like, they'd won a lot last year just because they'd outscored their own quote-unquote poor goaltending. They also lost games where the goaltending was great and no one else was. And that's kind of what this was. It happens. Again, I go back to, if you just look at the game and you're like, oh, okay, it was 3-2. The Blue Jackets were outshot 39-22 or whatever it was. Like, fine. Yeah, that makes sense. But I think because they were so close to getting a point, and it was just like that one last, if they'd hung on for 45 seconds, they would have gotten at least a point out of it, right? Probably lost in overtime, but they would have gotten a point out of it that they super didn't deserve, and you take that point and you run. Because they lost in the way that they did, I think that's why it stings so much. But here's the good news. The good news is the Blue Jackets are still in a wild card spot. They are still 7-5 on the season. They are still, they're playing good hockey. Not this game, but they are typically playing good hockey, right? They've got a decent goal differential. It's going the right way. That's only their second loss on the road all season, I believe. I think they are 4-2 on the road right now, which, considering how bad they were on the road last season, seems kind of like a miracle, right? Like, they're 6-4 in their last 10 games. They didn't play well tonight. It happens. Frustrating? Sure. I'm not willing to like throw the entire season out with this game. I don't think anyone is, honestly. Just a really, like, I keep going back to how frustrating it is to lose that way. And I don't think it was last season. I think it was the season before last. The Blue Jackets were tied with the New Jersey Devils, and I believe the Devils scored with like 0.2 seconds left in regulation to win in regulation. This is not as bad as that, but it is still kind of the worst way to lose, right? If you have clung on and you have clawed your way to an overtime point, sucks to lose it like that. And again, I'm not putting this loss on Elvis, but man, they were one save away from, like, again, getting a point and just getting the heck out of there. Tough way to lose. This is, again, I keep saying this every time they have a bad game. This was their worst game so far. They will lose games where they play well, just because that's how hockey works. They will win games where they play badly. I thought this might be one of them. Nope. Just nope. That's all I've got, right? And that is kind of all I've got for today. Tomorrow we are going to talk about the Calgary Flames, I think. We'll talk about I think what we're going to do is talk about the Western Canada swing as a whole, because the Blue Jackets have got 4 games coming up in like a week and a half. All in Western Canada plus Seattle, which kind of counts as that Western Canada swing. So we'll kind of talk about that as a whole, what I expect from the road trip, what they kind of need to get out of this road trip, etc., etc. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Thank you for listening to this episode, for making it your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Blue Sky at JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets on Twitter. Thank you once again for listening. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.